Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Second Unitarian Church. I am Christy Grant, a member of the church's Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are she, her. Today, we are in person at the Admiral at the Lake, in the 2U Sanctuary, and continuing to meet virtually using Zoom. We ask everyone's indulgence for the complications of a 3-part service. We're glad you are here, whatever way you are attending. Also today, we are continuing to require masking in the sanctuary in our cautious navigation in the face of COVID. We appreciate you joining us in this careful approach. As public health guidelines loosen, we will be moving to mask optional starting next week. We especially welcome newcomers and visitors this morning. Finding a new community and making new connections can be challenging. Please know that we are excited to have you and look forward to getting to know you. If you're new to us today, please note that in the Zoom chat or mention it in person during conversation after the service. If you would like, there are blue mugs here in the 2U Palmer Room you can use to signal to others that you would like them to come up and say hello. And if you're new, you may not know that the Palmer Room is right behind the sanctuary. Our worship today is led by Reverend Jason Leiden, along with Mary Helen Steinler as worship associate. Music is provided by the 2U Choir, Siobhan Walker, and Director of Music, Carl Kennedy. Our time together requires a large group of people who make possible the worship, the music, and the technical production. They are listed in the order of service, and we thank them for the ongoing service to the congregation. I have a couple of announcements for you this morning. The Anti-Racism Committee and Social Justice Ministry are organizing a reading group to discuss the book Defund Fear: Safety Without Policing, Prisons, and Punishment. The group has met twice so far and will meet one more time tomorrow, February 20th, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. All the books ordered have been spoken for, but if you need a copy, please let Reverend Jason know and he will help you get one. Next Sunday, following the service, we will have a congregational discussion about the Article 2 Commission report and the proposed changes to our UU principles and purposes. Reverend Jason will be preaching about the changes, and then we will have time to reflect and share with one another. Also, related to our social justice ministry, we will be hosting a conversation under the theme of moving from passion to action on Sunday, March 5th. We've got a book group tomorrow night, talk about the Article 2 Commission next Sunday, and then the following Sunday, March 5th, conversation about moving from passion to action, starting at noon. This will be a 75-minute in-person discussion focused on getting our congregation involved in collective social justice work. 2U has many people within it who are passionate about justice. We just need to figure out how to most effectively harness that energy together. Join us for this discussion to make plans together for the future of social justice at 2U. Please see Jonah Bondurant, Barb Michael, or Rev Jason if you have questions. You can find additional announcements in your order of service. I now welcome Mary Helen to lead our call to worship.
We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but by the values we share. Whether you are joining us for the first time or for the 1000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Whatever your race, whomever you love, whichever way you move in the world, however much money is in your pocket, you are welcome here. I invite you, as you feel ready, to take a breath in and out. As the music begins, let us enter into our service together.
Thank you, choir. How lucky are we? Ah, such a joy to hear you. In just a moment, Ruby here in the sanctuary and Harris at the Admiral will light our chalices, the symbol of our faith. And we light our chalices this morning with these words adapted from the Reverend Art Severance. May we live our lives the best that we can. May we love the best we can. May we gather strength from holding hands. May we be generous givers as well as receivers. May we meet one new person every Sunday. And so may we kindle this flame with the peace that passes all understanding and surrounded by the love that makes it all worthwhile. Ruby?
Good morning. Please rise in body and spirit as we join me in singing our opening hymn, number 163, One More Step. 168, I'm sorry. Sopranos have my back.
Please continue to stand and join me in reciting our covenant. The words are on your screen. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are...
No, wrong. You're saying the offertory words.
Oh my God, I got the wrong page. Forgot to turn it over, sorry. We're
Try it
gonna
again.
start over.
All right.
We covenant to build a community that challenges us to grow and empowers us to honor the truth within ourselves. We will be generous with our gifts and honest in our communication, holding faithful to a love that embraces both diversity and conflict. Called by our living tradition, we will nurture spirituality within a vision of the eternal, living out our inner convictions through struggles for justice and acts of compassion.
Please join me in singing our congregational hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
So just a few questions before we begin our time for all ages. And yes, if you would like to come forward, if you are young at heart or young in body and spirit, come on down. So when I was little, my least favorite chore was carrying the groceries up our front steps. Those milk jugs were really heavy. How many of you in the congregation has chores they do at home? Oh my gosh, I had no, you too? Who knew? So we have some things in the Wonder Box today, but we're not gonna shake it because there's one thing that's delicate. And because Reverend Jason is going to talk about collective responsibility with the grown-ups, that made me think about chores. So do you have chores at home? Yeah. Can you give me an example of the chores you do? Okay, Escher and then Zella.
My best one is carrying out the groceries up the stairs.
Your best one is carrying the groceries up the stairs? I knew there was gonna be one. I just knew it. Okay, Zella?
My worst one is sweeping.
Your worst one is sweeping. Okay, how about you, Ruby?
My favorite one is mopping.
Your favorite one is mopping. Do any of the grown-ups want to own up to their favorite chore? Yes, Michelle. Laundry. Yes, you and the fabulous bow tie. Doing the dishes. Yes, you. Watering the plants. Jennifer, I think I caught your name earlier. What's yours? You like scrubbing things. Okay, so when you do your chores, what happens at home? How do chores make you feel? Zella.
It depends on the chore. Sleeping makes me feel tired.
Sweeping makes you feel tired. What makes you feel happy? Say that again.
Cleaning the toilet.
Cleaning the toilet. Jason, do you have a chore that makes you feel happy?
happy.
Yappy.
No, I hate doing chores.
You hate doing chores.
It's a bummer.
See, I put him in there for comic relief, people. All right. So around your house, what is the effect when we do our chores? Does the house look better? Does it feel better to live in? Yes, Escher.
On the camera, it looks like I'm in a sea.
It looks like we make a C.
It looks like I'm in a sea.
You're in a C.
Yeah.
Okay. So is a chore connected to the words collective and responsibility, do you think? I think I might need some grown-up help with this one. How would we define collective? Everybody does it. And how would we define responsibility? Something that needs to get done? That makes, yes, David? Oh, that's a good one. A responsibility is something that causes problems when you don't do it. It causes problems for other people. So, when we have a collective responsibility, does that mean we all have to do the same responsibility? No, we all take turns maybe doing the responsibility. So let's open our Wonder Box and see what symbols we have of church responsibilities. Another listening ear. Oh boy, I'm just a big fan of that listening ear. A plant. A judge hammer, also known as a gavel. And hand sanitizer. A chalice and scissors. And crayons. And a hymnal. 2 hymnals. Because 2U loves music. Yep. The plant. I borrowed it from Kay's desk. I have to return it. Okay, so the chalice is also fragile. So when we think about the symbols of our congregation, what do we know about the hymnal? What's the hymnal a symbol of? Yes, Zella. Singing. And singing is a collective responsibility, right? It's our responsibility to bring each other joy, right? That's one of our wonderful responsibilities. And how about the hand sanitizer? Keeping clean during this time, especially during the time of COVID. How about the crayons? What could they be a symbol of? The crayons could be a symbol of coloring. Yes, Usher and Lumi. Why are there books in there? Well, they're special books. They have songs in them. What do you think about that, Lumi? You don't know those? Well, stick around long enough and you'll get to know them. Yep. The core? The court. So when could we use this tool at church? Grown-ups can jump in too. Annual meetings. What happens at the annual meeting? Can we explain it to our kids? Who has a nice, short, clear definition of what an annual meeting does? Yes, I saw Karen raising her hand. Come, stand up and preach the word, Karen.
The annual meeting is an opportunity for everybody to vote on our values and things that we do.
The annual meeting is an opportunity for everyone to vote on the values and the things we like doing as a community. I ad-libbed, is that okay? Yes, Stella. You do not know? Okay. So that's why the anvil is in there. And why the gavel is in there. Okay, let's see. What about the plant? What could the plant symbolize? Yes, Escher. Climate change. We're worried about climate change. Yes, Stella. We have to water the plants. Yup. You know what I was actually thinking kind of bigger, and I was thinking that the plant could symbol our commitment to growth as a community, that we grow together. And I was thinking that the crayons could symbolize our commitment to creativity, that we always do different things as a congregation. So let's see here. Our collective responsibility together, right, is that we get to make church happen every week. And so here's another question. Is the minister the only person responsible? No. No. Kids are responsible too, and grown-ups and teenagers. Yes, Escher.
Do you need weekends? Like church starts at weekends, not weeks.
Well, for me, the church week always starts on Sunday and it just keeps going. Yeah, until Saturday, and then it starts over. So this is the very exciting part about church, right? We get a say in what happens, and we get to do all the things, not just all the time. Everybody gets to take a turn with our collective responsibility, whether we're teaching or leading music or learning or taking care of each other with our listening ears. So if you could put the Wonderbox items back in the Wonderbox, I would really appreciate that. And please join me in singing the children to their classes. The song is in your order of service.
Thank you, Reverend Elizabeth. So each year, we as individuals in our congregation, we make a commitment, a pledge to support the ministry of our church, much like the collective responsibility Reverend Elizabeth was just talking about. In addition to that contribution that we make each year, on Sunday, we also take a collection so that we can share with those who are doing justice work well beyond our walls. We're not all able to be together in person, but we can still share generously. And so this is the time of the service where it's totally appropriate to take your phone out and follow the text to give prompts that you'll find in your order of service, or you'll see on your screen in just a little bit. For the month of February, we are sharing our plate with the Jane Addams Senior Caucus, and this morning we have some words from Nana Cross.
The caucus was named after Jane Addams, a social reformer and leader in the history of social work and women's suffrage. She was the co-founder of the Hull House in Chicago, a settlement house for new immigrants. She sponsored legislation to protect women and children and ensure factories safe working conditions. If you would like to learn more about this remarkable woman, visit the Hull House Museum on the U of I Circle campus. Today I'm going to talk about the newest campaign for health care at Jane Addams Senior Caucus, Care Over Cost. The caucus is a partner organization of the People's Action, a national organization with a local office in Chicago. People's Action is collecting stories of individuals who have been denied health care services by private insurance companies with help from pro bono attorneys. For those of us on Medicare, denials come mostly from Medicare Advantage organizations that replace Medicare Part B. Medicare Part A pays for hospital services, while Medicare Part B covers the cost of outpatient care, including doctor visits and various therapies such as physical therapy. Since Medicare Part B covers only 80% of the cost, most seniors buy a supplemental insurance policy and pay a monthly premium. However, there is the option to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, which doesn't require a monthly premium. Recently, these organizations have found ways to increase profits by upcharging Medicare for services while denying benefits to enrollees. These organizations increase income by making false claims for care based on medical diagnoses that have not been documented by the doctor in the medical record. Last year, Medicare charged some of these organizations with fraud and asked for reimbursement amounting to millions of dollars. The caucus recently had a victory with a member who lives in senior housing, is legally blind, and can only use her walker for 10-minute increments because of a physical disability. Her wheelchair broke in November, and her insurance company denied a request for a new wheelchair because the record showed that she had received one through her previous insurance coverage. The member became depressed because her activities were very limited without a wheelchair. Staff at the Jane Addams Senior Caucus worked with an attorney from Beyond Legal Aid to write a letter of appeal and were successful in overturning the denial. The member now has a new wheelchair and is able to resume her normal activities. If you or anyone you know has been denied medical coverage by your insurance, you can contact People's Action for help in filing a claim and sharing your story. If you're interested in becoming active in Jane Addams Senior Caucus, you can contact Lily Lerner. Her phone number is 312-787-2382. I also have a flyer with the more detailed information about how to contact People's Action and Jane Addams Senior Caucus. You can see me during coffee hour in the Palmer Room. Thank you.
Now, we're going to try this again with the right statement. I'm going to invite you to join me in reading our offertory words. The words are printed in your order of service and are on the screen. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm it and enable its participation in the larger world around us. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
Invite you now, wherever it is that you are, to join me in the spirit of prayer or meditation. Let's begin by breathing together. Try relaxing the muscles in your shoulders. Release the tension in your neck. Unclench your jaw. And breathe. We begin in thanks. Thankful for the breath in our lungs, the beauty of our earth, and the strength of this, our beloved community. We hold in our hearts those who care for family and ill health, those who live with grief or chronic pain, those struggling with addiction or illness, seen and unseen. We are with you. For parents and teachers and all those whose primary spiritual practice is care for children, we are with you. Pray for our neighbors in prison, For those who are struggling to stay afloat in the midst of poverty, we are with you. Pray for all those living in harm's way. Pray for our planet and commit to work that will lead us away from the harms of climate chaos. As war just continues to rage on, we pray that wisdom, compassion, and empathy guide the leaders of our world. May they and we be instruments of a just and lasting peace. Our lives are truly blessed by those who knowingly, with curiosity and courage, face their final days. As trans and queer communities are under attack all around this country, including right here in Chicago, we offer prayers of righteous anger and love for trans and queer young people in particular. Into this, our shared silence across space, I invite you now to speak the name of anyone you wish to lift up into the loving support of our community. With our deepest compassion, let us hold in our hearts those named and unnamed, those remembered and those forgotten. Let it be so. Amen, and blessed be. During our ritual of lighting candles for joys and concerns, we want to continue to maintain our safety with one another. Here in the 2U sanctuary, in just a moment, you'll be invited to come forward and light a candle. As you end your time of contemplation and candle lighting, we invite you to use the hand sanitizer that's available to you. For those at the Admiral, I invite you to come forward and take a pebble from one bowl, hold it tightly in your hand, and knowing your joys and sorrows to be shared by this community, let it go lightly into the other bowl. And for those of us on Zoom, please join by sharing your joys and concerns in our chat window. I will light a candle here representing all of your joys, celebrations, concerns, and sorrows. You can come forward. We hold all of these, our shared joys, celebrations, concerns, and sorrows close to our hearts. Mary Helen, would you share our first reading, please?
Our first reading this morning is from A. Powell Davies. Let me tell you why I come to church. I come to church, and whether I was a preacher or not, because I fall below my own standards and need to be constantly brought back to them. I'm afraid of becoming selfish and indulgent, and my church of the free spirit, brings me back to what I want to be. It's not enough that I should think about the world and its problems at the level of a newspaper report or magazine discussion. It could too soon become too low a level. I must have my conscience sharpened until it goads me to the most thorough and responsible thinking of which I am capable. I must feel again the love I owe to others. I must not only hear about it, but feel it. In church, I do. I am brought toward my best in every way toward my best. Life must have its sacred moments and its holy places. We need the infinite, the limitless, the uttermost, all that can give the heart a deep and strengthening peace. We need religion with its faith and purpose. We need it as experience. We need the touch of beauty, bringing back to life its luster and its loveliness. We need the unutterable communion of our spirits with the spirit of the highest, all that joins the soul with what it yearns for, all that can raise the frailty of our incomplete humanity toward the level of the Spirit's aspirations.
Our second reading is two excerpts from the book Centering, Navigating Race, Authenticity, and Power in Ministry. This is an anthology of UU ministers of color reflecting on their experiences within our faith movement. The first is from Reverend Manish Mishra. Unitarian Universalism is who I am. It is in my bones. How else, where else can I do and be what I am doing and being? I have at one point in time or another thought about every other possible thing I could do with my life. I've thought about leaving parish ministry. I've thought about going into military chaplaincy, going into hospital chaplaincy, going into teaching. I've thought about doing this as a Hindu spiritual leader. I've thought about doing this as a UCC minister. I've thought about doing this as a Unity Church minister. I literally have thought about actively playing out each of these in my mind, each scenario, and they just don't make sense to me. The path I am on is the path that makes sense to me. I realize that Unitarian Universalism will never in my lifetime be what I would like it to be, and maybe even in my bones need it to be. And yet this is the context in which I can be most free to be who I am. So both of these things are true at the same time, and that's hard. Obviously, if you enter ministry, you're idealistic, and if you're idealistic, you want things to line up in a way that makes sense, that are logical, and in perfect congruence. That doesn't exist for me. It doesn't exist for most of us. The second excerpt is from the late, great Reverend Dr. Hope Johnson, one of my most favorite people ever. And she says, I hold on to something greater. Unitarian Universalism has given me a legacy to continue living into. I'm one of the lucky ones in whom my congregation invested, and I have been blessed by Unitarian Universalism's investment in me. Over the years, I feel I have become a sister of this planet. So what exactly does this mean? In many ways, I see myself as a mirror to Unitarian Universalism. Our religion is itself a sister from another planet. It doesn't quite fit into the usual denominational or parish scene. It isn't a typical congregation, church, fellowship, temple, or mosque. It is other. And yet the living tradition from which Unitarianism, Universalism, and Unitarian Universalism springs also reminds us that Unitarian Universalism is indeed a sister on this planet. Let's hear our anthem.
Words and deeds of those before us, waken here to keep us strong. Blend our voices in the chorus of creation's living song. Courage bids us lift our eyes upward to the shining skies. Hope calls us
Loyal guides in love and duty, lead us with a trusted light. Blessed are they whose inward beauty shows the path of truth and right. Honor is their earthly prize. By their work we realize faith calls us all. have shed a radiant hour. When the truth has made us free, and the Spirit's gracious power dreamed of good that yet shall be. Bright the path we brings us rise. Joyful pilgrims now we rise. Life calls us on. 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 Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Thank you, choir. What a blessing to hear you this morning. So, I'm of the pretty strong opinion that the term church lady should be gender neutral. So you might chuckle. I had a sense that you might. But join me in thinking about it for a moment. First, imagine your most favorite stereotypical church lady. The first thing that comes to mind for me, a big hat. I know we don't see too many big hats at our church, which is disappointing, and you should really fix that. But it is still the first thing that comes to mind for me when I imagine the church ladies who make church happen week after week. In addition to the big hat, maybe there are some pearls, real or fake, that accentuate the church lady's fabulousness and shows that the church lady considers church to be a place that deserves some fancy flair. The most important part of the church lady, though, is the role the church lady plays at church. This is the person who works to know everybody's name. This is the person who maybe actually doesn't know your name, but calls you sweetheart. Or remembers that last week you were shedding some tears because something in the service hit you in just the right way, and church lady checks in on you. The church lady is caring while also fierce, gentle while also focused. The church lady does church because that's what you do on Sunday morning. The church lady holds the ancient and the modern wisdom of church life. The church lady does things that go unnoticed, and yet those quiet things getting done is what makes church life possible. In the life of the church, I wonder if we might all aspire to have some church lady qualities. I wonder what it might be like for our lay leadership to all embrace a church lady persona. And maybe that is a little bit of drag for you. Maybe you're not quite sure yet if you're meant to be a church lady, but maybe one Sunday a month, or just a Sunday every now and then, you place your metaphorical, really big church lady hat on, and you look around the congregation, knowing that you are the church lady our congregation deserves. You look around and embrace your role, knowing that church is worth it, knowing that our faith is worth it, knowing that religious community is worth it time and time again. In our gray hymnal, you will find some words from the Reverend Dr. Mark Morrison Reed reflecting on the role of church, and I want to share those words with you. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone, our vision is too narrow to see all what must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed. What do these words mean for you? When you hear Reverend Mark call us to be inspired to act for justice, what does that say to you? I spent most of my adult life working for justice in very specific ways, particularly engaged in prisoner solidarity work, but the justice that Reverend Mark is calling us to here is not that specific. What might justice look like in our relationships with one another? How might we be inspired to cultivate a community that is authentically engaged in justice? Our pastoral care team equips people at church with the tools to show up in the lives of other congregants when things aren't going quite as planned. This might include visits to the hospital or offering a helping hand with groceries. Part of justice is showing up for one another when we are in need. Whether those needs be big or small. There are times when we each feel broken, and part of church is showing up to offer little bits of glue, or like last week, sharing a piece of our hearts and taping up new ones. We need to remember what Reverend Mark says about the church. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed. We come to church to hold one another. We come to church to be held when we feel broken. Our faith calls us to be gentle with one another, to embrace one another, and know that we will get through this life together. Reverend Mark reminds us that alone our visions are too narrow. We need the visions of others. We need the ideas of others. We need the reverent work of others, because it is through these relationships that we create religious community, community rooted in shared values and exploration for truth. 6 days a week we wrestle with the world, writes Rabbi Herschel. Ringing prophets from the earth on the Sabbath, we especially care for the seed of eternity planted in our soul. He continues, even when the soul is seared, even when no prayer can come out of the tightened throats, the clean, silent rest of the Sabbath leads us to a realm of eternal peace, or to the beginning of an awareness of what eternity means. Church isn't just about doing work together. It's not about committee meetings or board reports. That's part of it, but that's not the essence of church. And Sabbath, this is a tricky concept for clergy, because Sunday, not really a day of rest. But I wonder if it feels like a day of rest for you. Not necessarily nap time, but a rest for your spirit? Even as you embrace your inner church lady, can Sunday be a spiritual Sabbath for you, a call to religious renewal? We pray and meditate together each Sunday, breathing and practicing gratitude. We attend to the world around us when we look deeply at our own needs as well. Might this be a time when you feel renewed? Is there a peace that comes upon you during church? And if not, what's getting in the way? How do you separate the baggage of church dynamics from the spiritual nourishment that is available with the intentional practice of coming together week after week? Pastor Laura Gorin posted something on Facebook last week that struck me, and I want to share it with you. She wrote, "I fear that as long as the reason we invite people to our religious institutions is so that they can fill our pews, take over our volunteer projects, and give us money, we're going to end up hurting the people who come to us looking for a connection with the divine and authentic spiritual community." She continues, "Because it's deeply painful to want to be in relationship with someone and find out they really only want us to keep their institution going." Do we seek to grow our congregation just to fill our pews or our chairs? Or are we creating a spiritually vibrant community that seeks to do justice in our beautiful yet broken world? Our congregation is in a period of growth. We just had a very successful new member orientation and are welcoming over a dozen new members. It is a beautiful thing. One of my most favorite parts of the new member class is when we share our spiritual autobiographies. This is a time during the first session when attendees share about the ways religion and spirituality has played a role in their lives. For some, this is a story that begins with a religious upbringing in their family of origin. For others, this is a story that begins with a middle-aged search for deeper connection. The stories are as varied as the people are, and each one is sacred. While I would love for each person who goes through membership classes to get involved with one of our ministries, teams, or committees at our church, even more important than that, though, is the connection to the holy that each of us can experience at church. When we create space time and time again for individuals to explore their spiritual truths, this is when we're doing church well. Maybe being a church lady isn't just knowing all the inner workings of our church structure, but maybe we become a church lady when we embrace the great mystery before us and accompany others around us on the journey, searching for truth and meaning as our principles remind us. Maybe it's not just about keeping our institution going, but about practicing what it means to love fully. Might this be a space where we can practice that together? Even when we fall short, and we will fall short. Even when things don't go as we hoped, can we commit yet again to a spiritual community that sustains our wellness and the wellness of those around us? I think we can. I think that to truly be church, we must. So as I begin to wind down, I want to share with you an excerpt from Reverend Sean Neil Barron's spoken word poem entitled, "Why Church?" I am not the spoken word poet that he is, so you'll forgive my less exciting rhythm and cadence, but he asks the question about why church, especially given how church can let us down. And then he offers some answers. The whole poem was shared during General Assembly last year, and if you want to read it all, let me know and I'll share it with you. But here's what I want to lift up this morning. Why church? For it will be true that the church you join will not be the same you leave. changed by your presence, changed by the presence of every other. That's the beauty and the magic and the heartache. There is much that changes in the life of church. The musical stylings of generations come and go. The language and words of reverence shift. We decenter what was once assumed to be our essence. To reveal the true liberatory power within, we constantly evolve, revolve around our core. That determination of love to break forth. That question, why church? There is no one answer, not one that could endure a lifetime, not one answer that's the same for each of us. Our answers, like stars, form new constellations, guiding us in every season of life, point us towards a simple impulse. Why church? Well, because church. I call it the casserole reflex. That when the church hears the news of the diagnosis of the accident or looming crisis or death, divorce, or disaster, somehow, even before they realize it, the casserole dish is in the oven, an instinct to care just baked in. That same reflex that taught me that when certain events happen, you don't call, you don't text, you go. You show up. Awkwardly, sure. Uncomfortable, of course, but you show up. Why? Because church. Don't call, don't text, just go. Not just to the homes of the brokenhearted or sick, but right here on Sunday morning. Whether you're at the Admiral, joining via Zoom, or here in the sanctuary, you are showing up to be church. There is no church without you. There is no Unitarian Universalism without you. There are no church ladies without you. It is because of you that we have something worth leaning into you. It is because of you that we have a faith that saves people's lives truly every day. It is because of you that our liberal theology creates pathways towards new truths, rooted in the lived experience of your beautiful lives. We cultivate collective responsibility for our community because we know, and we speak this truth each week, we are a community of ourselves. Who ourselves is constantly changes, grows, contracts, expands. As our anthem so beautifully told us this morning, love calls us on. Hope calls us on. Faith calls us on. Life calls us on. Each of these call us to church together, to build religious community together, to practice being church ladies, and take on the responsibility of being the church with one another. And I want to offer you some closing words from my most favorite church lady, Betty Jean Reuters Ward, who writes, "Whatever brought you here, the first time and each time since, I invite you to notice, cherish, nourish this unique call of your spirit. Whatever the reason you came to church, however you understand and relate to religion, I invite you to lean in. This community is sacred because of what you bring to it, your hopes and your dreams, your wholeness and your brokenness. May it continue to be so for generations to come. Let it be so, and amen."
Please rise in body and spirit and join me in singing our closing hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit. Witness the mystery of this hour, and draws us this light.
some more words from Billie Jean. Throughout my life, I have remained steadfast in one belief, one value, one commitment in particular: the power of spiritual community to guide us through this broken world. Help us build one that is more compassionate, sustainable, and just. May we all practice being church ladies together. Go in peace.